I was looking for a different kind of system because being exposed globally, I was already keen to like what was happening with disruptive companies. I was seeing what was happening out in other countries where they were using different technologies to enhance non-traditional elements in business. And so I was like, there has to be something in real estate like this.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Unleash Your Power. I am your host, Jeffrey Pinzon. Today, we have a special guest that's going to be able to share with us about leadership, about determination, about hard work. And thank you for everybody who has tuned into the previous podcast. The intention behind this podcast is, again, to add value to every single one of you guys, to show you examples of people that are truly unleashing their power and taking their life to the next level, but at the same time, also helping others get to that next level. So today I have the pleasure of interviewing Joseph Trujillo, who has a remarkable history in the real estate space, but also has a distinguished leadership in the federal government where he spent over 22 plus years. So I'm excited to hear about his leadership, about his determination, because he has over 1,000 people in his organization. So he's a leader of leaders. So get ready to dive into really his mindset on how to take his life to the next level and how he's also helping others do the same. So Joseph, thank you so much for being on our podcast, my man. It's a pleasure to have you here. So let's jump right into it, my man. Can you tell us a little bit about your upbringing? Who was Joseph let's go back to high school. Who was Joseph back in high school?
Yeah, I'd love to speak about that, brother. So, little fun fact, I'm actually everybody thinks I'm from Cali, but I'm actually from Northern California.
Okay.
Yeah, so I was born in an adobe home I was born in a house. And I was born in a house by a Native American midwife. Actually delivered me.
Wow.
And so all of my roots are from New Mexico, about 3 to 4 generations deep there.
Okay.
But when I was around 1 or 2, my parents were looking for just a better life, and so they came, and we landed in Boyle Heights, Huntington Park. So I grew up in HP.
Nice. I grew up in HP.
Did you? I didn't know that. Yeah. Okay, that's what's up.
Marconi and Florence.
Okay, I grew up on Hollenbeck and Gage.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's what's up.
Yeah, Hollenbeck and Gage, man. I went to Huntington Park High School.
Yeah.
And, I was there throughout in high school. This was like the late 80s, early 90s. Yeah. So these were the gang years.
Yeah.
I think at the time, like, LA was the murder capital, of the world. Yeah.
And back in the days, that school didn't have gates either, right?
No gates. No gates. No, bro. It was a free for all.
Yeah,
it was a free for all.
Yeah.
Yeah. So those were interesting times. My junior high school years were very gang ridden. All of my family was heavily involved in gangs, and fortunately for me, I had amazing parents. And my dad got me involved in sports at a very young age.
Nice.
And I think that was a big separator for me. As a child, just being involved in like Pop Warner football, basketball, and I was just hyper focused in that lane. So I was able to kind of shield, my upbringing from everything that was happening in the exterior world. Mm-hmm. That's how I really, really found myself being able to survive what was happening during those times.
What are some things from back in those times that impacted your life tremendously?
It was having good male role models.
Gotcha.
Yeah. My dad's still alive. He's like me, a Marine Corps veteran, and he's a 2-time Vietnam veteran, and so quiet man, but served his family. And so he was an excellent mentor at a young age. And then being in sports, I had phenomenal coaches. I remember them having a really big impact on how I was developing from a child to a very young man, and taking a look at morals and values and what I was putting in front of me and what I was even digesting as a very young man had a real significant impact on how I developed throughout the years.
That's awesome. Was that a reason why you jumped into the Marines?
Admittedly, no.
No? Okay.
The Marines wasn't my first choice.
Okay.
College was.
Gotcha.
So I went to Cal State Long Beach out of high school for about 2 months.
What was the change?
I just was acting a fool.
Okay.
You know, I got into that environment and I was just doing all the wrong things. And again, having a phenomenal mentor, my pops was like pulled me aside and just like, dude, you're fucking up.
Mm.
You know, and so like, what are you gonna do about it? And I had already known, that I had so much respect for what he had done and served our country. It was a no-brainer for me. I was just like, oh, I'm gonna go to Marine Corps. And I don't know.
What was his thoughts behind that?
Oh, highly supportive.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay,
Oh, yeah.
gotcha.
Highly
Yeah.
supportive. Yeah. I think
He's like, get out of here. Go,
he
go.
already knew, and at the time it was Desert Storm that was, the U.S. was actively involved in Desert Storm. And we already knew that was going to be a possibility, once I graduated from boot camp, that I would be deployed and stuff like that. So, yeah, 2 months later, I was a Marine Corps recruit in San Diego.
Wow.
Yeah.
What was that like? By the way, thank you for your service.
Oh, thank you, brother.
What was that
you.
like? Like the first couple of weeks when you got in there.
It was interesting.
Yeah.
It was interesting. Yeah. Admittedly, it wasn't ultra difficult.
Got it.
Because I had already been involved in athletics, and my pops was a very disciplinarian type of father.
Yeah.
So I adapted pretty well. Yeah, I adapted pretty well. Stayed hyper focused. I was always pretty athletic. I think I ended up graduating as the most physically fit Marine.
Nice.
And carried on from there. Yeah. So it was good. I learned a lot from even the leadership that I had experienced at that time, and seeing these drill instructors and how they carried themselves, and little things that you really don't notice as a young man, like posturing and confidence, these kind of tangible traits that you don't really start to take a look at until you're developing a little bit further in life.
Right. That's interesting, man.
Yeah.
I love it because you're coming from a background where there was a lot of gang related, a lot of stuff that was very negative, but at the same time, you made that choice of jumping into because you saw that your life was up to no good, right?
Yeah.
So it's so powerful because even though you're in that part of environment, like you have the power of choosing your next move, your next 5 moves, right? You have that power. Even if you're in a shitty environment, you could get out of that environment if you choose to, right? And if you're coachable, right? Because you have to be coachable about what people were telling you and leave that ego aside. So that's tremendous because a lot of people get caught up in that and they don't come out of that environment. So.
Right. No, that's an excellent point. Yeah. Sometimes people stay stuck.
Yeah.
Right. They don't take that step to evolve and elevate their surroundings, and we become products of our environment. Sometimes not by choice. But making a conscious decision to be able to do something different, to make a shift. Is something that you really don't take a real deep dive in at that age. And I attribute, again, like that little nudge and the push. Sometimes you need somebody in your corner to be able to, and that's why alignment is so important, whether it's in business or in personal life. Having coaches, mentors, family members, it doesn't matter who they are, right? They don't have to be professionals. It could be your neighbor that just gives you a little bit of insight to do something different, and that small shift can have a significant impact in your life.
Tremendously, absolutely. So how did you take that energy and that discipline from the Marines into your next life?
Yeah, so several years later, it's interesting because when you get out of the Marine Corps, oftentimes in military there's not a next step, right? There's not a career planning for us in transition when you go from military back to the civilian world. And unfortunately, you see a lot of veterans that don't make that shift during that transitional period as effectively as they should. But for me, I already knew that I wanted to get into something government related, just because of the experience that I had throughout the years in military. So I came out and I hit the ground running, man. I came out and I was just like, first thing I do, I got to get a job, right? So I got a security job working I think I was working at it was called Bullocks before, at the Beverly Center.
Okay.
I was doing internal security, right?
Nice.
It was funny. It was a cool job, and I got to see all these celebrities. It was fun. It's now called Macy's now.
Oh, so now it's Macy's. Okay.
What Bullocks is now Macy's.
Nice.
And so, but within a few short months, like I was there like 3 months, and I just started getting like promotions. So I already knew like I was destined to do something just a little bit more, with a little bit more impact. So I started applying for all these law enforcement jobs, every agency, all across the board. Ironically, I knew that I didn't want to be a street cop though. Um, Growing up in the neighborhood and being around like a lot of, police that sometimes aren't favorable to, the kind of
Correct.
communities that they're serving, it did leave a negative taste in my mouth. So I knew I didn't want to be like a patrol officer or a sheriff or LAPD. Nothing, and no shots. Those guys do amazing jobs. They're great servicemen, but that wasn't my path. So I started applying for like criminal investigator type of job, something that involved a little bit more investigative work, because that's what I did in the Marine Corps. And so I got fortunate. I landed a job with the Department of Justice, and I started working. I started working in just different facets of the Department of Justice, doing investigations, and ultimately that led to doing some really interesting and high level work with federal RICO cases.
Wow.
For the U.S. government. So it was phenomenal work.
Is there something that you could touch on that from all those cases that impacted you the most?
Wow, there's so much to pull from with that.
One that stands out.
Here's an interesting thing that actually kind of like ties in also a little bit about like what I was mentioning about, you never know where you're going to get, some golden nuggets from or impact from, right? I was around a lot of convicts, a lot of, criminals, especially the ones in the feds. And when you're around these kind of individuals, you come in with a bias. Naturally, as human beings, we have that, right? But when you're engaged with them on a day-to-day basis, there's a more human connection and interaction. And quickly, I started to notice like these individuals are highly intelligent, well-read. They have skill sets that, and that's what makes them excellent criminals, right? And so being around them so often, I could tell by the interaction that I was having with them that one, that there was a high level of respect, right? Because I always, they're always trying to, what's the word? They're always trying to get something, right? There's always a this for that, and quid pro
Expecting
quo,
something, yeah.
And so they pick out the weak, right? And so you get to learn like, okay, wow, how am I carrying myself as a law enforcement officer, as a human being, as a man, and what makes them think that I could be vulnerable, right? Or not. And I learned interesting traits about that. And ultimately, and we're talking about like really high level Mexican mafia, Aryan Brotherhood, like these guys are running these criminal organizations. Older gentlemen, right? 40, 50, 60 years old, street cred through the roof.
And at the time you were how
At
old?
the time I was 25.
Oh yeah, so you're getting.
I was young, and so to have them treat me with respect and then me give the respect back, I learned a lot of things that I learned as a young man that I was able to apply in that. And oftentimes they would pull me aside and be like, you know what, Mr. Trujillo, they always address me like that, even as a young man, but I could hear them clown other people. You know what I mean? They would like.
So you saw the level of respect they had for you.
Completely different.
Yeah.
Completely different. I started to notice those changes, and it's what you expect and demand of others, right? And when you give it back in return, I don't care if they're a criminal or a high level executive in an organization. There's something to be said about when you're connecting with human beings, and whatever your value you're providing to them or the reciprocating relationship that's involved in there. That's how you start to separate yourself from others. So that was a big learning experience for me, is dealing with that kind of community. There was a lot to learn from it, right? I could have went in there with blinders and been like, you're this and I'm that, and you're below me and I'm above you, and that's how a lot of people in law enforcement operate. But when you meet somebody where they're at and you maintain respect, you can pull a lot from that, and pull things that you can apply in your life.
A lot of emotional intelligence, right?
Crazy emotional intelligence, bro.
I
Like,
could tell, yeah.
yeah, through the roof.
Yeah.
And at the time, again, it's in retrospect, right? At the time, I'm not reading books like that. I'm not that heavily digested into self development. This is very ground level, interactions. But I think there's some people that have it in life, and there's some people that learn it in life, where you know how to effectively communicate with other human beings, and it's a separator.
That's incredible, man.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Well, is there anything else as far as like the communication, how to have that human connection with people? Anything else that you now in the real estate space you're bringing into, because you transitioned completely from a federal government job to real estate, and you actually started part time, right? So
Yeah. So,
want to have a couple questions on that one, right? You started part time. What took you so long to pull that trigger?
okay.
To go full time too.
Good question. Yeah, great question, brother. Great question. So let me fast forward real quick. So from DOJ, 9/11 happened, right?
Yeah.
So I went from like criminal investigations, and then Homeland Security opened up, and then my entire focus in government work shifted from criminal investigations into like counterterrorism, because that's where everything was happening in the nation. And in that environment, I had a completely different experience, where I started interacting with other high-level professionals, right? And this is where like my career enhancement really started to kind of like take off, because all of a sudden I was interacting with, executives, other law enforcement professionals that were like a cut above, right? So these guys, after 9/11, they were picking like the best of the best in military and law enforcement. These guys were like SEAL team members.
Wow.
High-level law enforcement officers,
So the best of the best.
talent, man. Like, and admittedly, like when you're in those environments with individuals like that, you can't help but feel either insecure, or like you're dealing with your own emotional challenges. You're like, damn, this guy's a badass. You know what I mean? And we're on a mission together, and we're going to go do this or that. And so you start to level up, right? And then it becomes a proximity conversation, right? You're in the room with people that are just keep on elevating you, right? And it was like a blessing, bro. To go from like all these different ladders in life, and being around other individuals that were going to just push you and make you a better person than you are, make you be more physical, more mentally, strong, emotional, all that stuff.
They took all the excuses away, right?
Completely, bro.
How old were you at that time now?
So now this is more like I'm like in my late 30s.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm in my late 30s. And the career is a phenomenal career. But I was traveling 15, 20 days out of the month internationally.
What countries that you visit?
I've been in 55 or 56 countries.
Wow.
So, yeah.
That's incredible.
Global perspective, right? And then you learn life lessons.
Absolutely.
So that was the big takeaway in the second half of the career, is when you're in other countries, third world countries, and even if you're there just for a short amount of time, a couple days, and you start to take on what's happening in inner cities or underdeveloped areas in these other parts of the world, you start to acquire a great sense of appreciation and gratitude for what you have back home. But then you also try to figure out like what kind of impact you can have, right? And so,
is there a specific situation where you impacted somebody's life that is like felt incredible for you, that you remember vividly?
So when I left government work, I had to sign an NDA.
Okay.
But there was often times when the work product that we had were involved in, we would go to other countries, perform work, and then we would come back home, right? So we were there. It was very mission based. But every time something like that happened, it had an impact. It either had an impact on the safety and security of a particular country, a person, a family, or just like the overall well-being of counterterrorism focuses, whatever that looks like.
Wow.
The interesting part about it is it's all done without any kind of acknowledgement, right? So when we talk, like you hear people talk all the time, bro. It's like it's a light conversation. Oh, for the service of others, and you're giving back and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's cute. That's cute conversation, right? But when it's different. When you're putting your life on the line, and you're not going to get any acknowledgement for it, you're really doing it for a greater purpose.
Right.
Yeah. And so when you come back home and it's not discussed and you just move on day to day, it's a different way of absorbing what's happening in what you're doing day to day. And then when you start to take those kind of applications and you apply it in business, to me, that's been has had a big effect on my business and what I've done as an entrepreneur.
How did you see the things that you learned right there to start applying them into business? What were some traits that were unique that helped you develop your real estate career and your entrepreneurship?
Right. So at the latter end of the years, and I always talk about this actually when I speak about like, how did you get in real estate, right? Because I've been in real estate a little over 5 years now, going on 6 years. And so it was just simply to sell my own house. I was going to sell my own house. I didn't want to pay commission.
You were one of those people that put for sale by owner signs?
Almost. Not that bad, bro. I wasn't that gangster yet. I actually was like, all right, let me get my license and do it legit, okay. Right? So I got my license, put it on the market, blah, blah, blah. It sold. And then I just started like helping the people I was working with. Like I was just being of service to my law enforcement people, firefighters, those types, right? And
you had influence. Right there.
But I really didn't do it for the money. It's like they're family, so I was showing love, and I was doing things that realtors don't do, bro. Like out of my 3% commission, I was like giving them half back and buying them appliances, and because I was living a comfortable life.
Yeah.
So that's how I kind of took off, and it was about like 6 months later. This is like in the end of 2017.
Okay.
Right. 6 months later, I'm flying 15 days out of the month, but at 6 months later, I sold 25 homes. Right,
leaving 15 days out of the month,
completely gone, bro.
And you're selling 30 houses.
I sold 25 homes my first 6 months in real estate. At the end of that year, I don't know. I think I had made like an extra $220K or something like that. Right now, keep it. 220K was more than I was making in government work.
That's still cutting your commission.
I don't know. Well, my takeaway is different, right? But how much I made, right? So I quickly seen the possibility, quickly seen the possibility. And I've always loved entrepreneurship. Like even before real estate, me and my boy Decatur Thorne, we used to run a CrossFit gym. We had 2 clothing brands that were very, very successful. So we were always like hustlers. We had that street hustle going on while we were serving and doing everything for the country. And then when real estate came around 6 months later, $225,000, I made more than I did in government. I'm like, this is too sweet, right? And the following year is when I joined EXP. A year later, I was looking for a different kind of system because being exposed globally, I was already keen to like what was happening with disruptive companies. I was seeing what was happening out in other countries where they were using different technologies to enhance non-traditional elements in business. And so I was like, there has to be something in real estate like this. Mm-hmm. And I actually started looking at EXP. I found it online. I didn't even know anybody.
Wow.
Real talk. I didn't know anybody at EXP. And joined it. And I don't know, I think that year I sold 50 some homes part-time. Eventually, I ended up leaving government service because I was leaving so much money on the table by only working part-time in real estate that I was limiting my potential. Mm-hmm. And so when I was able to punched out, and I went full-time into real estate. So I've been full-time real estate agent now going 2 years.
2 years, full-time.
Full-time.
Got it.
Like not government work, full-time.
So even while you were doing it part-time, you were selling real estate, but you were also building your organization, right?
Exactly.
What was that like? Because that's a different ballgame.
Completely
Going
different.
from being a solopreneur to now actually having, teaching others, being patient. Like, how tell me a little bit about that.
Well, yeah, because you're going from sales, right?
Yeah, you go from sales.
You go from sales. Now, a lot of people, if you know EXP's model or whether you know it or not, I actually didn't join EXP because of the opportunity to have this passive revenue blessing. You know, I actually joined it because I just wanted to have ownership in my company. So growing up in the neighborhood, like I was the first one in my family to ever buy a home. I bought my first home when I was 19, Santa Fe Springs.
Right here.
Right here. Right, exactly. Right where we're at, bro. Right down the street on Telegraph in Orange.
Oh, nice.
And so having ownership has always meant something to me. And so when I looked at EXP, it was the only real estate company that would make me an agent owner in the company, you know, without going the traditional route. There's that way, but to do something quickly with limited experience, having stocks and shares in the company was important to me. I seen the value of it because I was 22 years in government service, saving 18% of all my earnings and putting it in a 401k. I could see the wealth opportunity in it. And that's why I came to EXP. But it wasn't until a few months later, and because when I came to EXP, I didn't know anybody in the game. I didn't know anybody in real estate. I wasn't blessed to have been 15 years at KW or Century 21,
Right.
have all these relationships, and then when I transition over, bring on already a small army, right? So for me, it was very ground level. My buddy Decatur Thornton was the first one to come with me. And the small independent company that I was at, she closed up her shop and came with me. And so it was like 2 or 3 of us.
Wow.
But about 3 months into EXP, I got a passive revenue share check for like $2,000 or something like that. Like it was like in December. I was like, hey, shit, this is pretty cool. Where'd this come from? You know, it was a deposit. And I realized at that point, it just became keenly aware that there was a passive revenue element to this that I was really strongly overlooking. And then I, again, shifted a little bit of focus, and I started to notice that, wow, like the leadership traits, because I have a strong background in organizational development.
Correct.
And so I said, this is an incredible opportunity to start to build something that is going to grow, right, with or without my efforts. And so let me use my experience and see where it goes. And I think in my first year at EXP, I grew an organization of about 200.
So what was that
200
strategy
agents.
to get to the first 200?
Well, the strategy was pretty easy, actually. It was finding like a loophole in the market, right? So you don't have to be in real estate too long to figure out how everybody's doing business, right? And so you start to figure out the small caveats that agents really need in order to have a better life, to have, you know, more income on the table for themselves. And so I started to leverage a little bit of the opportunity. You know, now back then EXP wasn't a real open conversation for many people. But as you start to connect with them and meet people where they're at, again, even going back to like back in the days, right, in the military experience and in the law enforcement experience, having conversations with agents to see where they're at. So my conversations were seldomly about the opportunity at the company. My conversations were about, you know, where are you at in your business or in your life? What kind of contributions can I give to help you develop either professionally or personally so that they could go to a next level? And so it came from that perspective. So I was more focused on the process of attracting and bringing on amazing human beings than I was with the outcome of them joining me.
Did you get a lot of pushback from like seasoned agents that they're like, "Hold on, have you been in real estate, Joseph?"
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you get something like that?
Of course. Yeah, you're always going to get that, right? I've always kind of like jokingly laughed about the agents that would be like, I've been in real estate 15 years and I've sold 1,000 homes and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Right? But one thing that I guess was a little bit of an advantage for me is I was already top 1% agent in the country, like my second or third year in real estate. I was selling 50, 60, 70 homes a year personally.
Yeah.
So I had done NAREP top 250, like a lot of accolades in a short amount of time. And that's something that I always like that's one of my business things is you can do a lot in a short amount of time.
Yeah.
Like God bless that in 15 years you've sold 1,000 homes.
Yeah.
You can sell 1,000 homes in 2 years. You can sell 1,000 homes in 1 year. If you're in the right alignment, right leadership, right education and training, right mindset, right? So why I didn't know the limitations.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Correct.
Like I came into this business.
You have no excuses, right?
No, I wasn't in an office where there was one guy that was selling 50 homes and that guy was a hot shot. I didn't know. I thought 50 homes was weak.
Yeah. I think that was the blessing, right? That you didn't know what you didn't know,
You
right?
don't know what you don't know. There's no ceilings.
Yeah.
There was no ceilings. So coming over and then having conversations with people, they're like, dude, you sold 50 homes last year and was part-time? How did you do it? Right? And
Now
then
that curiosity sparks.
curiosity. Yeah. And then the ability to share that duplication, right? That was another really strong business point that I learned really quickly, was that business models that were based off of individuals or personalities, because there's a lot of personalities out there. Individuals and personalities, they seldomly succeed overall in business. But when you take business models that are duplicatable, where people can duplicate a business and you can create multiple success, multiple leaders, that's how you're going to have a more profound career in business, in my opinion. So, and that's what I love about what I'm doing now, is that now, 1,000 agents later, it's not about Joseph, right?
Correct.
I am now somewhat in the shadows of other phenomenal leaders that are going to be better leaders than I, that are going to set foundations and standards that are going to far surpass what I've done.
Right.
But I'm blessed and thankful and grateful that I had my hand on their shoulders when it was time for them to come in and become what they are.
What are some success stories from agents that you're like, man, like this guy went from nothing to now changing their family's trajectory? Like, what are some of your proudest moments in that aspect?
So first, I'd go without saying, it'd be my brother, Decatur Thornton, right? So this guy has been my brother in arms in some of those other entrepreneur assets, in military service, all of that.
Yeah.
So, and he's one of the most humble cats. Most people have never seen him. You may know him on social media, but this guy's a fucking beast. He's a beast, bro. He's me as well. Like we're two of the same, right? And so he still works for government.
Wow.
And he's punching out 50 homes a year.
Wow.
He's been an icon agent in this company going on 3 years now. Several $100,000 in stock awards and incentives, and he runs an organization of 400 agents with part-time. Right? So it's unheard of, bro. Like that doesn't happen, right? To have one person in an organization, that's normal. But when you start having multiple leaders like that within a small group of individuals, there's something that's working there, right? So he's obviously one of the key examples. Will Higgins is another great partner of mine. You know, we run hand in hand. We talk every single morning. We're brothers in alignment, and
I see him killing it, man.
He's killing it, bro.
Yeah,
killing it. He came on board about 2 years ago. 200 agents in his group. He's over 6 figures in passive income, and he's still selling, a shitload of homes. Phenomenal leader, bro. And so he's another excellent example. And then we got like Cindy Keithley in Oklahoma, and we have agents now in Texas, and now it's not a California conversation, right? We have a U.S. conversation. I have agents now in 6 different countries, 24 states. It's could never have imagined it, bro.
Wow, that's incredible. So what are some systems that are duplicatable? Because from Higgins to get from 0 agents to 200 agents in 2 years, you said? Like, how do you, what is that system that you have in place for them to take that quantum leap? Because it's not incremental. It's not linear growth. Now it's exponential growth.
Exponential growth, yeah. Now, first of all, the credit is all to them.
Correct. They have to do the work, right?
They have to do the work. Yeah. First of all, right. And I forgot to leave out one other individual that is like similar trajectory, Felix Hung. So Coach Hung is also in our organization. He's over 200 agents, one of the top 25 coaches in the United States. And again, another phenomenal leader, right? And so what we've seen, going back to your question, is that it really isn't rocket science. I mean, it's not like we're handing them a playbook, in writing, saying this is what you have to do, like steps 1 through 10, right? Everybody wants to project that and say that's what they're offering in coaching or mentorship and stuff like that. Really, what it is, it's the small conversations that are being held behind closed doors. It's proximity to leadership. It's who's going to get you in the right rooms of the right conversations at the right times. And that's what's really propelled a lot of the leaders in my organization. Is called Dream Chasers, right? Is the people that apply themselves when they come in, right? You have EXP's umbrella, but that's just way too basic nowadays. You need to be in close proximity with people that are going to push you, encourage you, be in your corner, be non-judgmental of your approach on a day-to-day basis. That's going to really do corrective action when you need it. That's going to have real talk conversations with you and not just be like a yes man for you, right? And I see a lot of that in business and in real estate where there's people that are just overly encouraging. Stay the course. You're doing great. Fuck that. No, you're not. You're fucking up. Your sales are down. You're not recruiting enough agents. Like, let's take a deep dive into your business and figure out what's happening here. And 9 times out of 10, it's something personal. People are dealing with traumas. People are dealing with life. There's things that are deep down in there that need to be uncovered, unraveled. And we all go through it. You know, I go through it all the time.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, and so, but it's being so keenly aware that there's something wrong and then adapting to it. Right. And then making the change. And when you have people in your corner that are doing that for you, it brings a whole different level of leadership and success.
So do you have like one-on-one conversations with them, and then you also have like the accountability with their amongst everybody, all the leaders?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So there's all those systems are in place, right? And so even a tribute to like the alignment that I have in leadership with like Leo Robles and Rick Jihan, Rosie Rodriguez, and Brent Gove, and I'm under an amazing alignment in leadership at EXP. And they've also set up a lot of systems in place that we're able to plug into. So the roads have been paved. Yeah. You know, in the last few years, these roads are paved. Like agents that are coming on board now,
they're a blueprint.
Their blueprint it's there. It's whether you want it that bad, are you going to work for it? If you listen to what I tell you to do and put your ego, like so many people with the ego conversation, right? They put their ego up. They want to create their own way to succeed with it. You can do it. It's possible.
It's going to take you a long time.
It's going to take you longer, right? We've already put in the work. Yeah. So sometimes you got to listen to your ancestors.
Yeah, you know? Absolutely.
So, yeah.
So where do you see the Dream Chasers, your company, your giving back to people in the next 5 years? What does Joseph see himself at?
So from the organization perspective, just with the trajectory of how the company is growing and the attraction that we're having, I mean, it's the fastest growing company in the history of the world. You know, we're going to be 1 million agents in this company in the next 7 to 10 years. Wow. Those are like conservative projections. So out of 1 million agents, I mean, I don't see any reason why I shouldn't have 50,000, right? Based off of how I see it growing and the kind of leaders that are aligning with me and Dream Chaser. So that's my goal. 50,000 agents in the next 10 years is the goal. And we cut that in half.
50x right there.
That's 50x. Yeah, 50x. But this company has 89,000 agents in now. We're going to 1 million, right? So there's 10x there. So, and not everybody is going to excel within that framework at that rate, right? Yeah. There's only like 10, 11% that are actively recruiting amazing people to join in alignment with. So I see it happening very easily. Yeah. So 5,000 agents for sure in the next 3 years.
Nice. How are you utilizing social media for that? Because social media is a big platform where now you're able to share your stories. You're able to show the wins, the success from other people. How are you utilizing that to attract quality leaders into your business? Because now you're a leader of leaders, right? Like, and you said something key that I loved earlier, that you're like, my goal is to make that person that comes into my organization better than I am.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah. Like them to be freaking if they're 10 times better, even better, right? Yeah. So what does that game plan look like with social media content and stuff like that with all these platforms?
Right. So again, it's the duplication of it, right? So it's one thing for me to put out content that's going to be able to have me attract agents, which I still do. Like I have 2 or 3 agents that join my organization just from like Instagram.
Correct.
Every single week, right? So there's an organic attraction there that's happening. But if as I bring on like a Will Higgins, right, or a Felix Hung, or a Decatur, Cindy, and Verona, all these amazing people, and they start to put out the same content. So, right, so then now you're building an army of content deliverers that are providing so much value. So the duplication, the multiplication factor that's happening, so
The noise gets louder.
it just gets way too loud.
Yeah.
It just way too loud. So then I can quickly see, like, for example, Will Higgins will attract more agents this year personally than I will, right? Dope.
That's a beautiful thing.
That's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
It's so awesome, man, just to see how it has impacted like his life and some of these other leaders, right?
Yeah.
And we're talking about agents that have 200 plus agents, bro. There's like 6 or 7 of them in this group, but within that 1,000, there's so many that have 50 agents. There's so many of them that have 25 agents, 5 agents that are putting money on the table, that are paying the bills, feeding the family, paying the mortgage. And this is passive income. And in times like right now is a tough time to be in real estate, right? So many people are not selling as many homes as they had in the past. But guess what? When you're getting that extra 5,000 or that 10,000 coming in passively, and it's sustaining you and your family, and you can still stay in the game, now we're creating more market share in a time when 60, 70,000 agents have left real estate in just in this last year.
I love that. And then the creativity still sparking.
Still sparking.
You know, you're coming from a different context.
Yeah, it's essentially an elimination of the weak and a greater opportunity for the good, for us to be able to get in there, create more market share, give the blessings out. And then as the market shifts, right, we're already going to be at the forefront of more opportunity. So I love the fact that when you start to have other facets of your business that are fueling but running in alignment, then all of a sudden you're really not so conditioned to what's happening in the market. Like we really don't, in our organization, we talk about it, but we're not that impacted by, hey, what are rates? How many sales am I going to get? Because we have other elements that are fueling the.
So what elements are you focusing on? Are there like a specific a few that you guys are focusing, like marketing, developing? Like what are some stuff that you guys are attacking and teaching your other agents on how to do the same?
So now there's a lot of conversations that go far beyond, just like real estate and sales conversations. I mean, we're having conversations about like health and wellness. We're going to conferences with Gary Brecka and having, more self-development conversations with coaches and stuff like that. So it's like full circle, right? Now we're filling in the gaps of the small things that we deal with personally in order to enhance our business life.
Correct.
And some of the best people in business are doing that, right? Like if you just pay attention to what great people are doing.
Correct.
And just like, oh, well, let me take that from Grant Cardone and this from this guy and that guy. And you start to put the pieces of the puzzle together, you'll start to see the benefit of it. It's hard to see it when you're so attached, again, like to the outcome, right?
Yeah.
When you're so like transactional.
Yeah.
Like, dude, I got to get that sale because I got to feed the fam, right? And if you take a step back and really dive into the process of it and what you're really doing for your community, your agents, whoever it is that you're serving, and fall in love with that part of the business, right? The outcome will follow.
Yeah.
The outcome will follow. But I'm excited, man. That part of real estate is phenomenal. And now that I have more time to be able to, because now there's leadership that's in place, there's an organization, there's training, I actually can take a step back. Like I enjoy, like now I have weekends, right? And so I'm like spending time with my loved ones. I have a better quality of life now. I'm paying more attention to my physical fitness and just trying to take a deep dive and just to becoming a better human being. I want to be a centurion. I got like all these things that I want to, achieve in my life. But a couple things that I'm really proud about now is doing some nonprofit work. I dove into serving as president for the NAREP chapter in SoCal IE, and then I just took on another business opportunity, working closely with Mayor Bass in the LA City.
Nice.
Working on housing affordability, homelessness, ADU projects. So that's another passion project that I'm diving into now.
Nice.
That I'm really, really excited about. It's going to be really, really dope.
That's awesome. And you're investing that free time now into other ways on how to give back and add value.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Got to.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just way too hungry to like.
Where do you get that hunger from, Joseph? Like, what drives you right now? Like,
I think it's just the competitive. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like just like
you want to kick ass.
just from being like a. I always think about like when I was like a Pop Warner football, and I just wanted to hit the other kid so hard that that he just never wanted to like get on the field again.
Yeah.
You know, because I remember feeling that feeling when I was like my first day in football. I was like, this kid hit me so hard, bro. Like I was sitting there crying, you know, and my dad got up and he just tapped me on the shoulder and he's like, bro, shake that shit off.
Yeah.
Get out there.
Yeah.
Day 2, it all changed, you know? So, yeah, it's just be competitive.
Nice.
It's just being competitive.
Love it.
Yeah, it's so dope.
That competition brings the best out of you, man.
Yeah.
If you're not competing with yourself,
Yeah.
if you're not up leveling yourself, man, you're dying. Tony Robbins says it. If you're not growing, you're dying, right?
Exactly.
You got to continually be growing every single day, changing those habits, looking at yourself, taking inventory of what's working, but also what's not working, right? What habits do you have good and what habits do you have bad? Sometimes it's like what the don't do's, right?
Right.
Sometimes we focus on we got to do this, we got to do that. No, sometimes we got to look at what we don't have to do, right? What are those negative habits that are stopping us to up level yourself, to unleash that power, to get to the next level and to be a contribution just like Joseph is being in this country. Thank you for your service, my man. Any last words that you want to tell our audience? How can they reach you if they want to get into the real estate space? They want to learn from you, your mentorship, your leaders. How can they get involved with you?
Yeah, so I'm easily reachable. I mean, most people like reach out to me on social media. So on all channels, I'm at Icon Joe Trujillo, at Icon Joe Trujillo. So if you connect with me that way, that's probably the best way. And I stay in flow with most of my people right there. And I'm still very actively involved, and I'm constantly looking for the next leaders, right? Here's a really cool stat, and it's actually very specific to real estate. I was really thrown off by it when I heard it, but it's like something crazy, like 60% of all real estate in the next 5 to 7 years will be done by people that are not even licensed right now.
Wow.
Right? And so if you're one of those individuals, or you know one of those individuals, and you want to come in and do a lot in a short amount of time, connect with me. I'd love to be able to provide guidance, leadership, and training in that element.
60,000, you said? 60%?
60% of all real estate will be done by people that are not even licensed.
That's insane.
Bro, think about that opportunity, man. It's crazy. So the new leaders of tomorrow aren't even here yet.
Yeah. They don't even know what's coming.
They don't even know.
Yeah, that's incredible.
But when they get here, holla at your boy.
Let's go, baby. I love it. Awesome, guys. Well, make sure that you guys subscribe, share this video, share with a bunch of people because they need to hear there was a lot of golden nuggets that Joseph dropped. Again, true examples of people that are playing a big game. They're not just talking, but they're also walking and impacting and paving the way for other people, right? They're showing the blueprint. One thing that I loved, I saw one of your keynotes that he posted JC. I love JC. And he's like, I'm not a businessman. I'm a business man. Let me handle my business. Damn. Let's go, baby. Tune in for the next one. Take care, y'all.